Shalom Aleichem, Erev Tov. We are taking apart the Pesukim in the Mikra, which are related to the laws of Sanhedrin. Today's shul is going to focus on the actual founding of the first Sanhedrin that we have in the Jewish people. And this is the Sanhedrin in the days of Moshe Rabbeinu. Before I talk to you about Sanhedrin, before I talk to you about anything else, I was speaking with someone from my shiur in Arizona. I shared with him a story. Now, whether the story is true or not, I can't tell you. I only heard the story. I wasn't there for it. But they say never let the facts get in the way of a good story. There was a famous Ashkenazi Chacham. He wrote a commentary on the Mikra. He's known by his acronym, the Malbim. Some maybe know him as the Malbim, but the Malbim. The Malbim was a tremendous Talmid Chacham who, in his wars of zealotry for HaKadosh Baruch Hu and his Torah, got himself in tremendous amounts of trouble with politics and other things that happened. At a certain point in time, the Malbim decided he's done being a rabbi. He doesn't want to be a rabbi of a community anymore. But he didn't know what to do for a parnasah, and he was always praying for a way out. Rabbi Akiva Eger, alav shalom, he writes in one of his letters to his students, Motze ani harabanut mar mi mavet. I find the rabbinate to be more bitter than death itself. This is a play in a pasuk. The pasuk says, Motze ani. Someone knows. Motze ani ta'isha mar mi mavet. I find this wife there. I see, Pam, I was waiting for you. I found this wife to be more bitter than death itself. Akiva Eger he had a wife who was a big tzaddik. If he writes in a diary somewhere that he used to talk with her at night in HaShamayim and Torah and Halakha and incredible things. But the Rabbanut was a challenge for him. So the Malbim was always looking for an exit. How could he get out? And an opportunity arose. There was a man in the community who offered the Malbim to open a shoe business with him. He'd invest, the Malbim would run the business, and together they would work and make money, Baruch Hashem. And the Malbim formally resigned from his job as Alav Kehillat, and he began selling shoes. And it was going great. He was making enough parnasah to feed his children and his family. It was good. But the Malbim, on a personal level, also had a difficult life. I believe the Malbim was divorced. His life wasn't so simple. One day the Malbim comes to work, and he finds that not only are all the shoes missing from the store, someone had stolen the shoes and all of his life savings. And it turns out that his partner had robbed him blind and ran away with all of his money and all of the shoes. Malbim went home, heartbroken. Day 1, 2, 3 days go by. The parnasah situation is getting more and more difficult. At a certain point in time, the president of the community, comes over to him and says, Rabbi, we still have your job. It's time for you to stop being a shoe salesperson and come back, take the job as the rabbi of the Kehillat. And the legend has it, actually I wasn't there, but the legend has it, that the Malbim's first derasha was to announce in public to the whole community, I want everyone to know that I publicly forgive my business partner for stealing from me, forgive him for taking my life savings. I forgive him from everything except for one thing. I will never forgive him for having to serve as a community rabbi anymore. I'll never forgive him for that. And this inspiration for this pasuk, for this saying, comes from this pasuk here. In this week's Pesukim that we're going to be looking at in Sefer Bamidbar. By the way, it's interesting that we call this book Bamidbar. Bamidbar. Really, it should be the book of Anyone have the book open to the first chapter, first pasuk? Yeah, what does it say? What's the vowelization? What are the vowels? What are the nekudot? Bimidbar. Very good, Gittel, you're right. Bimidbar. Now it's Bimidbar and not Bamidbar. But tell me why it's Bimidbar and not Bamidbar. What does Bamidbar mean? In the wilderness, right? Bimidbar means in a wilderness. So which wilderness are we talking about?
Sinai.
Bimidbar Sinai. Because the Midbar is talking about Sinai, we don't say in the wilderness, say in the wilderness of Sinai, the desert of Sinai. Seemingly, when you take the word Bamidbar out on its own, it should be Bamidbar, but there is no actual book of Bamidbar. The book is Bamidbar. I think I saw some old German Chachamim were particular to say Bamidbar. I know some Sephardic Chachamim also particular Bamidbar. Everybody says Bamidbar. This is not my war. It's just something I want to point out to you. That sometimes we say words and we don't actually vowelize them properly. But let's say to judge Am Yisrael favorably that we're not saying it's the book of Bimidbar Sinai, we're saying the book of Bimidbar, so it will be grammatically correct to say then Bamidbar. So in the book of Bamidbar, we find Moshe Rabbeinu in a very unusual situation. Unusual because it goes against the way that Moshe Rabbeinu ever spoke in the Torah. Before I tell you that, I want to give you some rabbinic background to the struggles that Moshe Rabbeinu was having. It's a follow-up to the Malbim. If you have a Talmud near you, if you have Sefaria near you, you can open up Masechet Horayot. If you don't want to open Masechet Horayot, that's okay, I'm going to read it to you anyways. There's a story in Masechet Horayot, Daf Yud Amud Aleph, in the bottom of the page. So if you go to Talmud, Horayot, open up to page Yod, and you'll see it at the bottom. They tell a story. Hada Rabban Gamliel v'Rabban Yehoshua. There's a story that happened with Rabban Gamliel and Rabban Yehoshua. Rabban Gamliel what was his job? He was what kind of leader? He was the prince. So let's say that he occupied, though he was Tamil Chacham, of course, he occupied a more political position. He was the Nasi. And then you have Rabbi Yehoshua. Rabbi Yehoshua is the right, so he's the Rosh HaRabbanim. He's the head of the rabbis of the Jewish people. So there, once it happened that they were Havu Azle Bisfinta. They were traveling together on a ship. Bahade the Rabban Gamliel have a pita. Rabban Gamliel had with him some bread. Bahade Rabbi Yehoshua have a pita vesulta. And Rabbi Yehoshua had bread and flour. Shelim pite the Rabban Gamliel. When Rabban Gamliel finished his bread, Samach asulte the Rabbi Yehoshua. He relied on Rabbi Yehoshua's flour to be able to eat. And he was very surprised that Rabbi Yehoshua brought with him not just bread, but also flour for the road, to make sure that if he ran out of food, he would have what to bake. Amar le, Rabban Gamliel said to Rabbi Yehoshua, Mi hava yad'at, dehava la nikuva kulehai, da'aiti tzulta. Did you know that we were going to be delayed on the ship, that our layover would take so long that we would run out of bread, that you brought along flour? Amar le, he told him, כוכב אחד ל-70 שנה עולה ומטעה את הספנים. There is one star that rises every 70 years and misleads the sailors. ואמרתי, and I said to myself, שמא יעלה ויטעה אותנו. Maybe this star will rise during our journey and it will mislead the sailors and we will be delayed. That's why I took along some flour. The Rabbanit is here, so if the Rabbanit ever wonders why I pack so much when we travel, and she packs nothing, because the Rabbanit is like Rabban Gamliel, and I am like Rabbi Yehoshua. I always have to make sure what's going to happen if in the middle of nowhere there's not even a place to buy a charger for my. That's how it works. So Rabbi Yehoshua was well prepared. Amar le, Rabban Gamliel said to him, "Kol kach biadach v'ata ole b'sfina." You possess so much wisdom, yet you have to travel around on ships in order to make a living? Minastam, but the Maharsha explains that Rabban Gamliel was also traveling on a ship. But Rabban Gamliel was wealthy. He was traveling on a ship likely to Rome or some other political business. Rabbi Yoshua was taking the risk of traveling because he needed to make a living. Amar le, Rabbi Yoshua answered him, Ad shata tameh alai, until you are wondering about me, al shne talmidim sheyesh lecha bayabasha, Rabbi Elazar Chisma v'Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgeda. Before you wonder about me, before you start asking questions about me, ask about your students, Rabbi Elazar Chisma and Rabbi Yochanan Gudgeda. שיודעים לשער כמה טיפות יש בים. They're not like me that I assume that maybe a star will rise in the middle of the sea. They know exactly how many drops of water there are in the ocean. It's obviously an exaggeration. I mean, they're very wise people. ואין להם פת לאכול ולא בגד ללבוש. And they don't have bread to eat, nor do they have clothing to wear. If you think that this is an exaggeration, I will tell you right now that I know, just me, right now, if you ask me off the top of my head, I know a minyan of Talmidei Chamim, not together, one, saying 10 people, real serious Talmidei Chamim, who live like that, not intentionally. It's out. Even food they don't have. Natan da'ato le'oshivam berosh. Rabban Gamliel said, listen, if my students don't have food to eat, he was clearly out of touch with his Talmidim. If my students don't have food to eat or clothes to wear, then maybe I should give them a job. Let me make them the head of the yeshiva. Kishe'ala, when Rabban Gamliel came to land, shalach lahem. He sent for them, v'lo ba'u, when they didn't come. Why would they ignore a request of Rabban Gamliel? He summons them for a job. Why would they not come to take the job? There's no, you can guess.
Might interfere with the Torah study.
Okay, you say they were too involved in Torah study to come. Okay, I'll take it. I want another answer. It was humility. I'm assuming by the answer that I can show this is the correct. They were too humble. Now we're going to become Rashi Yeshiva. You know, we're not worthy of them. Chazar v'shalach uvav. Again, he said for them, and this time they came. Amar lehem, he said to them, Kim dumin atem, sheserara ani noten lachem? Do you think that I'm offering you serara? I'm offering you some power, some authority? Avdut ani noten lachem. I'm giving you servitude. I'm giving you slavery. Shenemar, like it says, Vaydaberu elav le'emor. And they spoke to him, saying, Im hayom tiye eved la'am hazeh. Today, you will become a servant to this nation. This was said but the son of Shlomo becoming a king after him. This title, this teaching led to a book, 2 volumes, written by a rabbi I don't know. His name is Rabbi Moshe Leventhal. He lives in Eretz Israel. He wrote a 2-volume book on the rabbinate, how to be a successful rabbi, how to navigate the pitfalls of the rabbinate. And it's called Srara She'avdut, authority which is really servitude. All kinds of sugyot on being a rabbi of a community. If you want to be depressed, you should read this book. It comes in 2 volumes. A new volume came out not so long ago. It's all the problems and the pitfalls and the complications of being a rabbi of a kehillah. Why is it so bad to be in a position of authority? Why is it so difficult? If you open up Pirkei Avot, Mishnah Avot, chapter 1, in my Avot, it's Mishnah Yod. I'm sure you know that different Pirkei Avot have a little bit of a different chapter order. Shemaya v'Avtalion kiblu mihem. Shemaya and Avtalion received the tradition from the Chachamim before them. Shemaya says, Ehov et hamelacha, you should love work. Usna et harabanut, and you should hate, not the rabbinate literally, as in being a rabbi. Rabbanut, what does the word rabbi mean? What does Rav mean?
The one who's more, who's greater than you.
Okay, good. So Rav is like the language of greater. So there's a certain type of authority. Rav, Rabbanut means authority in Hebrew. In Hebrew we say Atam Mar V'Rav. You are my master. You are my. This is a title. Hate anything that involves you being over other people, having authority over other people. Val titvadan larashut. Okay, that already has to do with dealing with the government. Usnat Rabbanut. You could probably write entire books on why people hated positions of authority. But the easiest answer I could tell you, it's not easy. Sure, you get kavod. Sure, people stand up for you. People respect you. They invite you places. At the end of the day, though, it's a tremendous amount of authority. Our rabbis tell us that the Rabbanut mekaberet et ba'aleha. The Rabbanut buries those who have it. Authority ultimately kills a person. I'm sure you've seen pictures before about people before they became president of the United States of America and after they became president of the United States of America. Even their hair color changes. It's a tremendous amount of stress. The same, Mishle, we have a pasuk. Kehillat. In Kehillat it says, Ki betzel ha-chokhmah betzel ha-kasef vitron dat ha-chokhmah techayev ve'aleha. Wisdom, it gives life to its owners. But the Rabbanut, authority, it buries its owners. Chacham Ovadia Yosef, alav shalom, he would always correct people when they called him Harav Ovadia. It was a please don't call me Rav. Rabbanut mekaberet ba'aleh. Rabbinate will kill people. Call me Chacham. I prefer Chacham Ovadia. Now I have other reasons why you should call someone Chacham and not Rabbi. Today everybody can be a rabbi. I once was in a conversation with somebody whether we should give semicha to women or not. And I was hearing a lot of all kinds of excuses, this way, that way. And I told him, today in the Jewish community, you give semicha to anything that moves. Even if it looked at a yeshiva, it gets a semicha. It doesn't have to go to yeshiva. It doesn't look at the yeshiva, you give it semicha. It doesn't have to know how to read Hebrew, just to know that there is a language called Hebrew, and you can give it semicha. So a woman who's a Talmidat Chachamim, who knows Torah, you have a hard time. You should have a hard time with all of the other people that you're letting into the rabbinate and flooding it with. So maybe today, being called a rabbi, it's not a Shem Kavod anymore. Maybe it's a Shem Gnai. Maybe it's a disparaging thing to call somebody. A rabbi can be stupid. Yeah? Because what a stupid rabbi. You can't say what a stupid Chacham, because Chacham denotes that they're wise. They can't be stupid and a Chacham. Maybe it's a good title to use in general. I would recommend people not to pursue the rabbinate, but to pursue the Chokhmah of the Torah, and then it doesn't matter what title you have. If you are a Chacham or you are a Chachama, then nobody needs to give you any kind of credentials for the world to know that you have Torah inside of you or not. That was my introduction to the Pesukim we're going to read today, because I want to explain to you the mitzukah, the struggle, if I can say such a word about Moshe Rabbeinu, alav shalom. Mori Harav was very particular not to speak poorly about Moshe Rabbeinu, alav shalom. And I'm not intending to do so, but there is a level of humanization that I have to do, because Moshe Rabbeinu, though he was not like us, was definitely a human being, and you're going to see that he reaches the end of his rope here in leading the Jewish people. Let's look together at the Pesukim. The scene opens, Vayhi ha'am ki mitonenim ra be'oznei Adonai. The nation, what are they doing? Right off the bat, what are they doing?
They're complaining.
They're complaining. Why are they complaining? Why are the Jewish people complaining? Aside from that they're Jewish, and Jewish people like to complain. What's the reason they're complaining?
They complained a lot about the way things used to be.
A lot about the way things used to be. Meaning, they're sitting here in the desert, free people, getting food from heaven, protection from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, being led to their own homeland in Eretz Yisrael, and what do the Jewish people have to say? They're mitonenim. What's an onen? Lo alen. What is an onen?
Someone who has nothing to do.
Okay, yeah, very good. In which context do we have an onen?
An onen is a mourner who's not able to act yet on any of it. He's in the process of he's recently lost someone before burial.
So it's like the worst. There's not even the ability to do avilut. They're so distraught that they're onenim no anenu. Mori Haram, Kapat Mishkavo, was very careful as much as he could to avoid using the word ani. You don't have to do this. I'm telling you a sensitivity he had. Ani is the shoresh of onen. He didn't like anything to do with onenut. You could aninut. You could if you could say anachnu instead of ani or anu, we would never say anu. Mamash, even in tefillah, he would change. Unless it was a pasuk in the Torah, he would change it. Vayam kimitonanim. They're complaining. And then HaKadosh Baruch Hu is upset at the Jewish people complaining, and he devours part of the camp. So now that the Jewish people are complaining at HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu punishes them for that, in Pasuk Bet, Vayitzak ha'am el Moshe. Who does the nation scream at? Moshe. Why do they scream at Moshe Rabbeinu?
Because he brought them
Very good. If you can't complain to God, complain to the second in command. By the way, this Rabbi Moshe Leventhal that I mentioned to you before, he writes the Rabbanit gets it the worst in any rabbinic relationship. Because most of the people don't come to complain about the rabbi to the rabbi. They're cowards. They don't want to come and say something. So what do? They always complain the whole day to the Rabbanit about the rabbi. Or they assume that, shlucho shel adam kemoto. They're going to apply shlichut. Whatever they tell her, she's going to tell him. And you find all day long she gets hit because of things she didn't even do. Moshe Rabbeinu, what does he have to do with the story? But now the Jewish people complain to Moshe Rabbeinu. So what does he do? V'itpalel Moshe el Adonai, v'tishka ha'esh. Moshe Rabbeinu prays to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the fire goes away. There's a rabbinic tradition here in Masechet Berachot. Those of you in my Hebrew class, we're going to have it afterwards. The letter Aleph and the letter Ayin, they're two different letters. Aleph and Ayin. They're not the same letter. They're pronounced different, and they mean different things. They were one of the Chachamim in the Talmud, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. He couldn't differentiate between Aleph and Ayin. And he actually says, Moshe Rabbeinu v'itpalel Moshe al Adonai, like he was complaining to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, about HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yeah, but that's because of a misreading of an Aleph and an Ayin. And the Jewish people, they keep talking. ויקרא השם במקום ההוא תבערה, כי בערה בם אש אדוני, והספסוף אשר בקרבו. What are asafsuf? I don't have a good English word, because the English words that they use, and all of the English translations I looked at today, they don't make any more sense to me in English than they do in Hebrew. How would you explain asafsuf?
Gathering and the addition of the asif.
Okay, very good. So we're going to immediately accuse these people. Most of them, most of them are going to say, who are these people?
These are people that they jumped on and latched onto Israel as they were leaving Egypt.
Otherwise known as?
The
Erev Rav. The Erev Rav. And I'm going to put aside now all of the Kabbalistic stuff about Erev Rav and how pretty much instead of ever blaming the Jews for anything, in the rest of Jewish history, we always are blaming the Erev Rav for all the things the Jews do wrong. I'm putting aside that mentality, but here, there's a group of people that are inside of the Jewish people. Hitavu ta'ava. They desire a ta'ava. Ta'ava is something you want, not something you need. At home, we practice this a lot. Is this something you want? Or is this something that you need? It may feel like you need it, but you don't need it, you just want it. וישובו ויבכו גם בני ישראל ויאמרו מי יאכילנו בשר. So the Jewish people, they begin to cry also because they're influenced by their surroundings. And they begin to complain, who is going to give us meat to eat? Mori Harav, whenever he read this pasuk to us, he would tell us that this is the danger of getting used to things that you don't need but that you want. I'm going to explain to you what I mean. Everybody here, at some point in their life, even the younger people here, before they had cell phones because they were not old enough to have them, not because they didn't exist. Some of you maybe it was because they didn't exist. Some because they didn't have them because they were children. You were able to leave the house I don't know, to go to the grocery store and come back without a cell phone. You had this freedom of movement. Nowadays, even if you're going to catch mincha in the Beit HaKnesset, 20 minutes, and you know you're going to come back home, but you forgot your phone at home, you can't even pray mincha anymore. What am I going to do without my phone? What will be without my phone? Now, it's not necessarily a bad thing that a person has a phone. The bad thing is that a person, when they're not able to function without something, I don't drink coffee. I don't like coffee. I'm not some hero that I don't drink coffee. I just don't like it. I know there's some people, they can't live without it. But I see every time we have a fast day, I come to the Beit HaKnesset in the morning, and I see the people, it's Shachrit on a fast day, it's like 6:30 in the morning. It's not even time yet for coffee, okay? Even the people have coffee at 8 o'clock. It's not even their time for coffee. You already see them, they're holding their head. Just the feeling that today they're not going to have their coffee is already making them a headache. And so I ask, maybe the Mormons are right. Maybe coffee is an addiction. If you can't function without it, then really you're an addict to it. And if you're addicted to it, then is that a good thing for you or is it not? The Rabbanit will tell you, I once heard her teaching a lecture at university, that addictions in general, addictions are not innately bad. I mean, yeah, I'm not telling you now to get addicted to things, but it's when a person can no longer function without that thing that interferes with their life, that's when the addiction becomes bad. And there's so many things that we need. Think about the life of yesterday. What did you need in order to feel wealthy? You needed a place to live. You needed food, drink, clothing. What else might you need? You want your children, you want health, some health. Okay, let's throw some health in there. Baruch Hashem. Today, a person who has a home and they have children, Baruch Hashem, and they have health, and they have food, and they have drink, and they have clothing, they're still poor. Because they don't have a car. I don't have a car. Maybe I have one car. I don't have two cars. I don't have two cars. Maybe I don't have two cars that are the latest model of car. It's not because now I have to drive far and the car will break down if I have to drive so far. Now I have to afford all kinds of programs for my children after school. Used to be I just had to afford school tuition. Now I have to worry about karate and piano lessons. And I have to do all of that. And then all of the things that I have to take vacation. The kids have winter break and I need to go to the Bahamas. I need to go. And now I can't afford to go to the Bahamas anymore. Now I'm poor. And then you see that all of a sudden, all of the things we didn't need, they cause us to feel tremendous amounts of yeush. Tremendous amounts of despair about our situation in the world. What do we have? We have a home. Is it hard to pay the bills? Maybe. Okay, but you're able to. You're able to. You have food? You were hungry today? You were able to buy? You're able to throw away some of your food when you finish eating dinner today? Your children went to school today? You swiped your card at the gas station and it didn't go decline? Also, you want a yacht and a private jet. At a certain point, we allow ourselves to indulge in things. We don't realize that by indulging in those things, when we don't have them, we do tremendous damage to ourselves. You see this in laws of tzedakah. The laws of tzedakah, you see that we have a halakha. Dei machsoro asher yechesarno. We have to support a person the way that they were when they had money. Chachamim tell us. You remember what Chachamim say there? Even if
they have like a very lavish lifestyle, you have to support them to sustain that lifestyle.
Very good. Even if they had horses and runners in front of their horses, we have an obligation to support that lifestyle. The community doesn't feel this way. When it comes to tzedakah, the community doesn't feel this way. When I understand why the person who doesn't have money anymore, I have to help him with his rent, and I have to help him with his food, and I have to help him with his kids in school, and we should even help him to send their kids to summer camp. Fine, I'm helping. But you also want me to make sure he drives a Lamborghini because he used to have a Lamborghini? I should worry about that? The community should pay for that? The answer is that what you think is, wow, I have all the basics in my life. For the person that used to be wealthy, they're poor. Mori Harav lived his life in tremendous simplicity, but he grew up very wealthy. His father was very wealthy in Morocco. He would always tell me it was a punishment that I grew up wealthy. For the rest of my life, I didn't have the things my parents gave me. I always felt that I didn't have what my parents gave me. Even though I have everything I need. You had to teach yourself. Why am I telling you this? Because you see how much trouble the Jewish people are going to get into here in this story? Because they don't know how to separate what they want from what they need. It's tremendous avodah that we have to do in ourselves. The world sells us that we need everything. I had a lady in my shiur this week on Shabbat. She told me about she was in Lakewood, New Jersey. And she opened up one of those, I don't know what they're called, the Jewish magazines of Lakewood, New Jersey. And every page were advertisements for silver water pitchers for your bride and groom table, and velvet with silver for your talitot, and gold trimming on your bed. I don't know, all kinds of things people buy. They have money, they buy things. And every single advertisement, it was, you need this. How could you live without this? That's what every person who does marketing does. But your mission is not to fall for all the marketing. And nothing will happen to me if I didn't have it. My father, whenever we'd come back from the school, we'd have the Scholastic book fair when I was a kid in school. And the last week they would say, the books are 50% off. And I'd come, my father, I want that book, it's 50% off. I said, you know what, it's 100% off if you don't buy it. You didn't need it before the Scholastic book fair, so why do you need it now? And my father, Baruch Hashem, was never stingy with us, ever, ever, ever. But the thought was, do you really need it? If you needed it, let's pay for it at 100% price. Why would you ever be stingy about something you need? If it's something you need, buy it even at full price. But if you're only buying it because it's 50% off and you never needed it before, you're training yourself with bad midot. The Jewish people, they make this mistake. We remember the fish that we used to eat in Egypt for free. את הקישואים ואת האבטיחים ואת החציר ואת הבצלים ואת השומים, all kinds of vegetables they're remembering they used to eat in Egypt. ועתה נפשנו יבשה אין כל. בלתי אל המן עינינו. We now, we're dry, we have nothing to eat. We only have this man that is coming out of heaven. They forgot one detail in the story. They forgot that when they were eating the avatichim and the chatzir and the betzalim and the shumim and the daga, what were they? They were slaves. In what do we call it in English now? An open air prison. They lived over there in Mitzrayim. They were suffering. They forgot that part. You have to make up your mind. Was it good over there or was it bad over there? You can't tell us it was so good, but we were slaves. You have to make a choice. And then to complain about HaKadosh Baruch Hu's gifts, where does that come from? Where is the mentality that I can complain about HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me? Is because I got used to the things that I want instead of recognizing the things that I need. Continues. They start complaining in detail about the man. I don't read you the whole parasha. Vayishma Moshe et ha'am, pasuk 10, Yud. Vayishma Moshe et ha'am bocheh lemishpechotav. Moshe hears the nation crying with their families, ish lefetach ha'olo. Everybody at the entrance of their ohel. For those in my Hebrew class, here you have two kamats. Israelis, because they don't read Hebrew, they would say ohalo, his ohel, his tent. But the proper Hebrew is aholo. The first one is kamatz rachav, and the second one kamatz katan. Vaychar af Adonai meod, uve'enei Moshe ra. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu was very evil for him, and also for Moshe Rabbeinu was very bad. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was angry, and Moshe Rabbeinu saw that it was very bad. Vayomer Moshe el Adonai. And Moshe Rabbeinu tells HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Lama hare'ota la'avdecha. Why have you done evil to your servant? Who's he talking about? Himself. Yeah, there's a button on your screen that says mute, unmute. When I ask a question, you're welcome to unmute yourself. Baruch Hashem. So he's complaining. So the Jewish people are complaining, and therefore now Moshe Rabbeinu starts complaining. Why have you done such evil to your servant? ולמה לא מצאתי, minus an aleph, חן בעיניך. Why did I not find favor in your eyes? לשום את מסע כל העם הזה עליי. Why did you put the burden of this nation on me? האנוכי הריתי את כל העם הזה. Was I pregnant with this nation? אם אנוכי ילדתיהו, did I give birth to him? כי תאמר אליי, סעהו בחיקך כאשר יישא האומן את היונק על האדמה אשר נשבעת לאבותיו. Do I look like the kind of person who walks around with a baby all day? Do I look like the kind of person who can handle these Jewish people? מאין לי בשר לתת לכל העם הזה? Where am I going to find meat? I'm in the middle of the desert. Where am I going to find meat? There is no Glat supermarket over here I can go find meat for. Where am I going to get it from? כי יבכו עליי לאמור, תן לנו בשר ונאכלה. Give us meat. They're crying. Give us meat. We'll eat it. לא אוכל אנוכי לבדי לשאת את כל העם הזה. הקדוש ברוך הוא, I can no longer carry this nation alone on my own. כי כבד ממני, it's too difficult. It's too hard for me. ואם ככה את עושה לי. And if you decide that I have to carry the Jewish people on my own, meaning, if you decide, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that I am worthy of punishment, that I have to put up with the Jewish people on my own, that's what the Mefarshim here say. Please, הורגני נא. Just kill me now. הרוג, אם מצאתי חן בעיניך. Just, if I find favor in your eyes, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, please just kill me now. ואל אראה ברעתי, and please do not let me see more evil that I have to go through with these people. This sounds like the Moshe Rabbeinu that you know. The Moshe Rabbeinu who runs after the Jewish people and saves the Jewish people and fights for the Jewish people. Tell me about the breaking of the Luchot. What does Moshe Rabbeinu tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu? The breaking of Luchot, HaKadosh wants to destroy the Jewish people. What does he say, Moshe Rabbeinu?
He says, don't get rid of them.
Don't get rid of them. Rabbi Yitzchak, that was you. Erase me from your book. Erase me from your Torah if you're going to destroy the Jewish people. There is a book called Akedat Yitzchak. Are you familiar with this book? There's a beautiful edition put out by Oz V'Hadar. It's a commentary in the Torah by Rabbi Yitzchak Arama. Rabbi Yitzchak Arama is interesting. He doesn't fall out on the Maimonidean side of the camp most of his life, but he's a very precious commentary on the Torah. By the way, if you ever study, for example, the writings of Professor Nechama Leibowitz on Shalom, she quotes Rabbi Yitzchak Arama a lot. She just calls him Akedat Yitzchak. Likely you never heard his name, but she quotes him a lot. Hara Peretz, and this parasha's commentary of Akedat Yitzchak is he can't handle the criticism that Akedat Yitzchak felt comfortable writing about Moshe Rabbeinu. If it was me, I would never write such things. So the difference between Mecheni Nami Sifrecha and Kill Me Now is very different. It says Moshe Rabbeinu in the first time was asking HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he was defending the Jewish people from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Here, he's trying to defend himself from the Jewish people. He's done. Moshe Rabbeinu is so hurt. He's broken. He's I don't want to use words like burned out, but he can't do it anymore. Moshe Rabbeinu says, if you want to punish me, but please punish me by death and not punish me by leading the Jewish people. Very, very harsh words. By the way, some commentaries here explain that Moshe Rabbeinu was asking that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should kill him because he was afraid the Jewish people were going to kill him. And he didn't want them to be guilty of murder also, on top of all the crimes the Jewish people were guilty of. He said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, save the Jews by killing me yourself. Don't make the Jewish people messengers. They're already bad enough. Their report card is bad enough. Don't make it worse for them. Even then, when he's asking to leave the world, he's trying to protect Am Yisrael. There's not a betrayal of Moshe Rabbeinu's protection of the Jews. This is Moshe Rabbeinu saying, I cannot do this alone anymore. I just can't do it. I think that any person in a leadership capacity who tries to make meaningful change, so not leaders that just go with the flow. This could be a leader, a teacher in a school. This could be a rabbi in a community. This could be a president on a board. This could be parents in a home. This could be any place where there's leadership involved, and part of the leadership requires taking action. I think that people will reach this place, this feeling of, I've reached the end of my rope. I'm not chas v'shalom talking here. If someone experiences suicidal thoughts or tendencies, it's a very real situation. I'm not invalidating it. It requires serious professional help, and Baruch Hashem, it exists. And if anybody is watching this video, you should know there are people who can help you. I'm not talking about that. A person feels, I can't function anymore. I'm trying to do good. I'm trying to make change. I'm trying to do what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, and at every single turn, it feels like I'm getting smacked in the face. How much more can I do this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu? This kind of despair is very, very human. And what you see happen next, I see HaKadosh Baruch Hu realizing, wow, Moshe Rabbeinu, I need to help you. You can't do this on your own. Moshe Rabbeinu, even you have reached your limit. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu gets involved. Look what happens here.
Question.
Yes, who's asking me this question? Yeah.
Weren't all the shoftim that were set up in Parsha Yitro?
That's a fantastic question. If you look in Rashi explains that those shoftim seemingly were all killed in the fire at the beginning of the parasha. Now, why would all the shoftim be killed in the beginning of the fire? That's already. If you want to jump down the rabbit hole, I would love to hear what you find at the end of this rabbit hole, because there's a lot to look at. When I was looking in the commentaries to them, like, if I get stuck on this question, you clearly see, though, that whatever leadership was set up, or maybe wasn't set up, it depends how you see it, but there's too many biblical proof that there were zikanim even already when we were in Egypt. So where do they all go? How is Moshe Rabbeinu really doing this all alone? It's a very good question. So I'm not trying to blow off your question. It's a very good question. And let's just say that for whatever reason, one way or the other, they're not here anymore. Moshe Rabbeinu needs to reassemble the Sanhedrin now. And that's the purpose of me reading to you all these Pesukim. Because what's happening now is that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to establish the first Sanhedrin. I know what time it is. Can I learn with you a little more? I want to finish this piece. It's okay with you? Okay, if everyone needs to go, I understand, but I'm going to continue here. Vayomer Adonai el Moshe. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe, Esfal li 70 ish miziknei Yisrael. Gather for me 70 men of the elders of Israel. Asher yadata ki hem ziknei ha'am v'shotrav. That you know, it's connected to what we've studied in the past weeks. V'lakachta otam, you should take them at Ohel Moed, to the tent of meeting. V'yitiyatzevu sham imach, and they should be there with you. Part of this is to show the Jewish people, look, Moshe Rabbeinu is not the only one who goes to the Ohel Moed. These people are very important. They go with Moshe into the Ohel Moed, to the tent of meeting. I'm sure you're familiar with the famous argument of our Chachamim in Masechet Sanhedrin. How many people were in the first Sanhedrin? What's the question? HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Moshe to gather 70 members of the Sanhedrin. 70 means how many? Raviv is looking at me like I forgot to do math. Okay, it's either 70 people, including Moshe Rabbeinu, or
like 69 plus Moshe.
Very good. Is Moshe Rabbeinu the 70th? Or is Moshe Rabbeinu in a unique situation where there's a Sanhedrin of 70 and he's one? Meaning 71. If you want to look at Masechet Sanhedrin, there's a tremendous amount of debate among the Chachamim. But let's just say that I'm going to call it the Sanhedrin of 70. Whether you're counting Moshe Rabbeinu or not, leave it at that. וירדתי ודיברתי עמך שם והצלתי מן הרוח אשר עליך ושמתי עליהם. I will come down, so to speak, into the Ohel Moed. And I will take from the spirit which I have placed on you, and I will put it on them. The second volume of Moreh Nevuchim. Rabbeinu Rambam talks about this ruach. What is the ruach? Abarbanel here in this, Rabbi Yitzchak Abarbanel, in his commentary here explains the connection to the Moreh Nevuchim and what does it mean to take the ruach of Moshe Rabbeinu and put it on the people. But let's just suffice to say, Moshe Rabbeinu has a certain connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that connection, that aura, that light is also going to be on the rest of these zikanim. I'm going to place it on them, and they will now carry the burden of the nation with you, and you won't have to carry it on your own. And then there are specific instructions for the Jewish people about eating meat and the like, and I'm not looking to get into that. Let's see the next pasuk that I want to look at. Skip a lot. Pasuk 24, Chav Daled. Vayetze Moshe, Moshe goes out, Vaydaber el ha'am, and he speaks to the nation. Et divrei Adonai, what HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him. Vayesof 70 ish miziknei ha'am, Vayamed otam sevivot ha'ohel. And he gathers these 70 and he puts them by the Ohel Moed. Vayered Adonai be'anan, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu descends in a cloud. Vaydaber elav, and he speaks to them. Vayatzel min haruach asher alav, vayiten al 70 ish az-zekenim. And he gives from that spirit of Moshe to them, unto these elders, Vayhi kenoach alehem haruach, when the spirit rests on them. Vaytnabeu velo yasafu. What those words mean is that they prophesied, velo yasafu, and they did not. Here it's going to depend who you're reading. Onkelos tells us, velo yasafu, what does he write? Umitnabein vela paskin. They are prophesying and they are no longer going to stop prophesying. Meaning, even in this beginning stage where HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to give them from the spirit of Moshe, but now it is a permanent fixture. They are now Nevi'im, and they're now able to continue prophesying forever. And that's the Pshat. Rabbeinu Tzedek Gaon says the same thing. Rashi quotes a Midrash from the Sifrei. It says, Lo nitnabeu ela oto yom levado. Meaning, velo yasafu means they did not stop, but they did not continue. They only were prophets for that one day. You couldn't read these two comment. I mean, they're two completely different readings of what happened here. I always prefer Peshat, and for me, lo yasafu means that they continued prophesying. Vayisharu shenei anashim b'machane. There are two people left in the machane. Shem ha'echad Eldad. The first one's name is Eldad. V'shem hasheni Medad. They are somehow, according to most of our Chachamim, related to Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. V'tanach alehem haruach, and the spirit also rests on them. V'hema b'ketuvim v'lo yatzu ha'ohela v'yitnabeu b'machane. And they were also supposed to be perhaps part of that group of the 70, but they didn't come. Why didn't they come? Remember the story from Horayot we read together? No, why do you think they didn't come? If they were worthy of being in the Sanhedrin, so why weren't they there?
I'm just guessing. I don't know that I've ever been asked to look at this, but did it have anything to do with their family? Like, were they being held back by others?
That's actually a great question. Seemingly, the way I read these Pesukim is out of a certain level of humility. They didn't want to run. Who are we to be part of this first Sanhedrin in Jewish history? They were humble. They were humble people. Their anava, by the way, could be what caused them to receive some kind of divine connection. And they begin prophesying in the camp. Vayarotz hanar, and the young man runs out. Who is this young man? He's anonymous. Anonymous. Rashi mentions a tradition that says that he is Gershom ben Moshe. He is Gershom, the son of Moshe Rabbeinu alav shalom. He runs. Vayaged Moshe vayomar, and he tells Moshe saying, Eldad u'Medad mitnabim b'machane. Eldad and Medad are in the machane. They're in the camp prophesying. Vayan Yehoshua bin Nun, and Yehoshua bin Nun, Misharet Moshe, the servant of Moshe, Mibchurav vayomar. What does it mean, Mibchurav? Either it could be. So you're gonna look in the commentaries here. Everybody wants to find a different meaning here, but let's just say he was one of Moshe Rabbeinu's students. Vayomar, and he says, Adoni Moshe, my master Moshe, kilaim. What does the word kilaim mean? Moshe, Yehoshua clearly gets zealous for Moshe Rabbeinu. Who are these people that are prophesying without permission? And he tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you should do this. What is this that you should do to them?
Stop them.
You should stop them. Okay, kilaim. So then what is the meaning of kilaim? Like milashon, Kalu, you should stop their prophesying. Okay, that's nice. Stop them from prophesying. Okay, give me another one.
Blame is sort of the source of destruction.
Oh, okay, destruction. Wait, this is gonna be my third one. Let's do the second one.
The other one is finishing, like by Ikulu.
Okay, that was the first one. So what's the second one?
Kehillat in prison.
Oh, thank you, Pam. Kele.
It means that they would physically imprison them, and are others saying that they assumed that prophecy somehow flowed through Moshe, like the spirit of prophecy flowed through Moshe to the 70 elders, and that Moshe had some kind of conscious control over their minds so that he can interrupt the flow or something. But Moshe corrects that assumption.
Very good. So kilaim, I'm going to say the sholish is kele, prison. Like imprison them, but don't let them do this. They're unauthorized prophets. The third one, Benjamin, I told you I would say it. Let me wait for the third one. I want to explain to you the next pasuk, and I'll get back to the third one. Vayomer lo Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu says, "Hamekane atali, are you being zealous for me? Umiten kol ha'am Adonai neviim. Who I wish that all of the nation of Hakadosh Baruch Hu would be neviim. Ki ten Adonai et rucho alehem, that Hakadosh Baruch Hu put His ruach on them, His spirit on them." What's Moshe Rabbeinu's answer to Yoshua? Not only do I not want to kilaim, whatever that is, I have a dream. My dream is that not just these two people will be neviim, but also all of Am Yisrael will be neviim. That's my dream. This is not opposite my will. This is exactly what I want. So the question really is in Yoshua. Why is Yoshua being so zealous for Moshe Rabbeinu? If he probably knows that Moshe Rabbeinu is the same Moshe Rabbeinu who doesn't get upset at anybody else, why would Moshe Rabbeinu get upset now? I want to tell you an answer, not in the commentaries here. Commentaries have all kinds of reasons why Yehoshua is upset. I'm going to tell you that the people that are close to people, leaders, their children, their wives, their families, they're a lot more zealous than the leaders themselves. I have to tell you the story. I was at a levaya this week, at a funeral this week. My parents are not here, right? They're not on the call. My parents are in Florida for this week, so I could tell the story without causing them Ugmad Nefesh. I was at a levaya on Friday morning, a levaya, and I came, and somebody there didn't want me there, started screaming at me. Now, for me, who cares? You're screaming at me. I came to levaya, I'm doing my mitzvah, I'm standing in the back, leave me alone. But now when I tell the story to my wife, I tell the story to my Kehillat, people get what do you mean they scream at you? Let them talk to me. Exactly. Yoshua is more zealous for Moshe Rabbeinu than Moshe Rabbeinu is for himself. It's a good reaction. It's not necessarily the right reaction, but it's a good reaction. Yoshua is not trying to be bad. Yoshua is being zealous for Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe is correcting him. You need to be more zealous than me. I wish everybody could be prophets. And that is perhaps the meaning of the word kilaim, the way that Chachamim understood it. Chazal, when they see this word kilaim, they write something different. Masechet Sanhedrin, page Yuzayin Amud Aleph, 17a. Chachamim say, "My kilaim, what does it mean, kilaim? Hatel alehen sochei tzibur. Make them prophets. Let them be part of the Sanhedrin. Vehen kalin me'elehen. And they will already be destroyed on their own." Meaning, don't kill Eldad and Medad. Don't destroy Eldad and Medad. Let Eldad and Medad be part of the Sanhedrin. You're going to watch their demise very quickly. Why? Because there's nothing that kills a person like authority over other people. This is a very cynical teaching of Chachamim. Let them have what they want, and you're going to see what will happen to them. But Tosafot there, Masechet Sanhedrin, says something interesting. He says, of course, we weren't asking to kill Eldad and Medad. Moshe Rabbeinu was very pleased they had Nevuah. Rather, if the problem is that they are mitnabi'im, that they are prophesying, we know en ha-nevuah shora, prophecy only rests on a person, ela mitoch, only from
Hashem?
Okay, from Hashem, but one can only prophesy if they are in what kind of mood? Only mitoch simcha. Very good, Yitzchak. Only mitoch simcha. Rabbi Yitzchak, that explains why the Bnei HaNevi'im, the students of the prophets, what did they do all the time?
Play instruments of music.
Very good. Like Ben Schofield. They would play instruments of music in an attempt to be in a good mood, in a good place, so they could receive Nevu'ah mitoch simcha. When a person is not happy, they're not able to connect to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I know that this teaching is lost on much of the Jewish community, who is convinced that in order to be close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you must suffer tremendously. But the exact opposite is true in rabbinic literature. The Nevu'ah can only come to a person mitoch simcha. And therefore, we're saying allow them to become involved b'tzorchei tzibur, in running the community, in running the Jewish people. And don't worry, Moshe Rabbeinu, in just a moment, they're going to be just like you. They're going to be so stressed out from running the community, they will no longer be able to prophesy. So if you want to get them to stop prophesying, you don't have to do anything. All you do is let them have the job they want, and already you'll see that every Talmid Chacham, the moment they become a rabbi of Kehillat, they become a Rosh Yeshiva, they stop learning Torah. Why? You don't have time to learn Torah anymore. Everybody calls you about this, they visit you about that, they need to talk to you about that, and you don't have any time to learn Torah anymore. The same thing with the Nevi'im. In this answer, everything connects together. Because ultimately what I wanted to share with you today was the suffering, the responsibility, let's use a better word, that authority brings with it. Maybe before I tell you my ending sentence, Mori Harav, Harini Kapat Mishkavo, would always say here, you'll notice the complaint that they said about the Eldad Umedad. What does this Naar say? He says, Eldad Umedad, what's the word he uses? In Pasuk 27, Chavzayin. Eldad Umedad. What's the next word?
They like in the camp?
Yeah, before that word. Mitnabe'im. What does it mean?
Translated as the youth.
No, not that. Mitnabe'im. What does it mean? They're prophesying. Yes? Moshe Rabbeinu doesn't answer that. He doesn't use the word. He says in the last pasuk, 29, he says, Umiten kol am Adonai nevi'im. He doesn't say kol am Adonai mitnabe'im. He changes the word around. Mitnabe'im means to prophecy. Nevi'im means prophets. What's the difference between someone who prophesies and someone who is a prophet? Those of you who came to learn the shiur through Yosef Zarnigan and my Kehillat, you know what I'm talking about. What's the difference between someone who prophesies and a prophet? A prophet is someone who prophesies. So what's the difference between them?
A prophet is a political leader.
Matityahu, say more. So the prophet, many people can prophesy. That's mitnabe'im. But then there's a level above prophecy. And that's when you are appointed to an official office of prophet. Yeshayahu, Yecheskel, Yirmiyahu, all of these people were not just, there were many prophets in their generation. We say, Ramatayim Tzofim, there were hundreds of thousands of Nevi'im. So what's so special about these ones in the Mikra? They were Nevi'im. They were not just Mitnabe'im. What is a Navi? It is a political office. We start talking about people being Nevi'im, other people not being Nevi'im, who's able to be a Navi, not to be a Navi. It's similar to the conversations we have, who can be a king, who cannot be a king. You need a certain kind of security clearance. Where are you born? Are you born inside of Am Yisrael, outside of Am Yisrael? Those things are important because we're appointing you not to be a prophet. Everybody can connect to Kadosh Baruch Hu. That's not the question. The question is, can you be appointed to an office of prophet? Moshe Rabbeinu is not saying, I'm okay with them just prophesying. I don't want them just to prophecy. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I want them better than that. I want them Nevi'im. I want them Nevi'im, not just Mitnabe'im. That's how selfless Moshe Rabbeinu is. And lastly, maybe it's my own observation, but the Mefarshim would help me. Chizkuni points out, for example, Kiten Adonai et rucho alehem, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will put His spirit on them, not my spirit. I want them to have HaKadosh Baruch Hu's spirit directly. Those of you who've read Chacham Fa'ur's Horizontal Society, Moshe Rabbeinu's dream is not that he remains a Navi in chief and that all the other people receive connection to HaKadosh Baruch Hu through him. Because there is no way to the Father but through me. That is not Moshe Rabbeinu. Wrong guy. Moshe Rabbeinu says, I want everyone to have Ruach Adonai Alehem directly from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, not through me. Moshe Rabbeinu is a leader who creates leaders. And this whole story, this whole parasha, we're going to use it in the laws of Sanhedrin, but for me it's a crucial part. We're going to talk a lot about the authority that leaders have, the power the Sanhedrin has, the power Shofetim have, Shoterim have. But don't forget for one moment the responsibility, the crisis that is inside of a person who feels, it's really nice to just be a regular citizen of the world. I sit here the last, how many months has it been since the war? 16 months, maybe. Who's counting? Over 500 days. I sit here and I have all kinds of ideas. If only I could speak to the president, prime minister. If only I could speak to the Knesset. If only I could speak to. But who am I? I'm sitting in a chair in San Diego, California. It's easy for me to talk. You know who has the worst job in the world? Whether you like him or not, the worst job in the world is the prime minister of Israel. He has the worst job in the world. Because he actually has the power to make certain decisions. And whether he makes them or doesn't make them, the responsibility sits right here on him. I don't walk around with that kind of guilt. I don't have that kind of authority. I therefore don't have that kind of responsibility. Also, after 120 years, I won't be chayav for all the mistakes that I didn't make. I didn't make them. Don't think for one moment, says Moshe Rabbeinu, that this burden is easy. The story of appointing a Sanhedrin is born out of Moshe Rabbeinu's despair. It's born out of Moshe Rabbeinu being at the end of his rope where he says, I'm unable to handle the Jewish people anymore. HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, fine, I'll get you company. I'm going to bring you friends. Misery loves company. I'm going to bring you friends. But it doesn't help. Because Moshe Rabbeinu now has to instill in these people the tremendous amount of responsibility that you now have. It's not enough now. I'm not giving you sarara, I'm not giving you authority, says Rabban Gamliel. Avdut ani noten lachem. I'm giving you servitude. The greatest leaders are those people who serve the people. They take the authority they need, but they always recognize that they are there in the service of the people. The greatest Talmidei Chachamim are the ones who don't ignore the people. They're the ones who love the people, they know the people, they serve the people. It's so easy for me when I go through books of halakha. People ask me a halakhic question. Just last night I was writing a teshuvah, and I'm looking at different poskim, writing different things. I can tell you which of those chachamim were nice people and which of them were less. It sounds what I'm saying. I couldn't say in a different Beit Midrash. I can tell you who you would be able to say Shabbat Shalom, Rabbi, how are you doing? And who you would be terrified to go over and say Shabbat Shalom to. It's from the way they rule halachot. From the way in which they speak and they write and the strictness that they have, I can tell how much they were able to care, not able to be there for the people they were answering questions to. That responsibility of serving the people is so crucial in leadership. And it's perhaps where all the siyata d'shmaya comes from. Look at Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is not afraid of jealousy. He's not afraid of someone challenging his authority. He's not afraid later. Korach, he bows down to him. He doesn't care. Moshe Rabbeinu is anav mikol adam. He's humble because he knows the authority that he has is from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He knows the only job he has is to serve the people in front of him, even the troublemakers. Even the mecheni nami sifrecha, erase me from your book. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I'm responsible for these people. But alone, when he's just him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he has a lot to share. He has a lot to say. He has a lot to complain about. Not in front of Am Yisrael, but he needs to recognize sometimes that he's also human. Moshe Rabbeinu suffered us for a little period of history. Imagine how HaKadosh Baruch Hu has to put up with us. And I think that we're going to talk about Sanhedrin and the laws of Sanhedrin and the power of Sanhedrin, the authority that Sanhedrin has. It's crucial always to balance any position of authority with a tremendous amount of responsibility. The responsibility comes along with a cherdat kodesh, a righteous trepidation. I know my place. I know what authority I have. I also know how much damage I can do if I wield this sword the wrong way. Wield. I use the English word. Yield is the right word, huh? I know. Wield. Someone help me over here. I need a... Wield. Okay, the first time I was right. Okay, I want carrying this sword over here. I have to know. That's embarrassing. English. Okay. So, a person has to know how much power you have. And the authority that you have has to always be balanced. I'm a parent. I have those children. I'm responsible for little decisions. I micromanage their lives. But it also means that when they grow up and they need to go to therapy because of me, I'm responsible for that. If they're never going to have self-esteem because I didn't build them up that way, if they're not going to feel that I love them unconditionally all the time, then I failed in my authority because I was authoritarian, but I was not a person with responsibility. I didn't understand the gravity of the position which I occupy. I bless us all that whenever you do something, you always recognize both sides of the coin. Don't let the power get to your head. Also recognize that, like every member of the Sanhedrin, Am Yisrael is in front of me, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is above me, and Gehenom is waiting right underneath me. It's a tremendous responsibility. But the people who can assume that job, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should guide them. Hashiva shoftenu kevarishona, v'yo'atzenu kevatechila. B'ezrat Hashem, I wish everyone a wonderful night. I'm here if anybody has any questions or comments.